Arizona should not be in play. Do you know why Arizona should not be in play for the left? Because it's a beautiful state, first off. Arizona is beautiful. It is just, I love the desert. I love heat. It is just one of the prettiest areas. It's kind of like if you were going to put Borderlands anywhere, you'd probably, the game, you'd probably do it in Arizona. You know what I'm saying? Because it's, it's similar. But I don't know why there's why it's even a battle. I mean, I do, but just think about it for a moment. It's the desert, right? It takes a certain kind of person to live out in the desert, even with all the modern conveniences of air conditioning and water coming right to your home. It's still, desert requires a hardy type of person to live out there, right? And when I generally think of statists, I have to be honest with you, I don't think of hardy people. When I think of statists, I think of starving people who are sick and have horrible representation because they've got tyrants running the show. So that's, just by way of geography, it's wild to me. But abortion is making it a thing. And we've touched on this a little bit, the whole issue of the abortion case in Arizona. And I think people should realize, too, it's not that anybody made law about abortion in Arizona in absence of a federal law. When Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health undid Roe v. Wade, then Arizona's own law kicked in. So when I hear Democrats going, oh my gosh, it's going back to the Civil War, 1846, before the Civil War, that's when, well, why didn't you not do anything in that state for so long? I mean, if Democrats were so worried about it, why did they not do anything state by state? What are all you people donating to, like the Planned Parenthoods and all these, pro-abortion groups on the left? The hell did you all get for the return on your investment? Because you apparently didn't get any action in Arizona from Democrats. So don't get mad at the Constitution of Arizona because they had a statute that kicked in absence of federal law. That's exactly what happened in Arizona. It was essentially a statutory decision. They're like, yeah, well, this is the law. In absence of a federal law, this is what kicked into gear. It's back to states' rights. So Democrats are mad, but I think one of the reasons why they're trying to distract you with their rage is because they want to hide the fact that they sat on their ass in Arizona and didn't do anything. Think about this. They just focused nationally. Their whole strategy was national. They had no plan B, just like always. They never have any plan. Democrats never have a plan B. That's how you get Biden. They had no other strategy. They didn't do anything. Now, if Arizona was that much into play and people were that freaked out because they're really trying with the messaging, why didn't they have a ground game? Why wasn't there any kind of organization from these pro-abortion groups in Arizona? Now, there are exceptions for the life of the mother, et cetera, to this law. That's why all these newspapers have to be careful in saying, well, it bans abortion outright, because it doesn't. You just can't be using it as a form of birth control. That's what they're saying. I mean, is there some states where it really doesn't go further than what some other states have? And if they're mad about it, again, you had literally since 1846 to change it, and you didn't. So that's not on Republicans. That's on y'all. That's just what the law is there. And they have exceptions for, like I said, just like every other state does. I don't know why the left tries to act like that doesn't exist, because it does. I've been disappointed with the way that some Republicans have been acting on this. I feel like Trump is trying to triangulate, but his messaging is bad. When it gets to into the weeds on stuff like this, Trump needs to hip fire a little less. Because the triangulation on the issue to try to keep certain states in play is not a bad consideration if you're looking at winning elections. And that's one thing I want to point out. I understand, and as someone who defines himself as pro-life, and I'm not going to try to justify strategy again, there are people that are solely focused on the issue of life, and that's, everybody has one issue that they solely focus on, some folks. If you are the Republican nominee, you got to be looking at every issue. You have to win the election first. So I think amongst the right, there's two different things. You have the people who who think an incrementalist approach is going to be more successful than an all or nothing, and I agree with that. And then you have folks who are solely focused on the issue of life, and then you have folks who also are pro-life, but they also have realized they got to win elections. And sometimes practicality can be frustrating, but that's the reality of it. We don't live in a world where you can go all or nothing and, and then you'll respawn when you're defeated. That's not how this works. And I think that people need to realize that. But it doesn't help when you have Trump go out there, like I said, and use phrases like abortion rights, etc. And it also doesn't help because with this, I mean, maybe they'll come up with some amendments to it. Maybe they'll have some amendments that they'll add in, about, I guess, time, whatever, 6 weeks, 15 weeks, whatever. But when I see Carrie Lake, and I know a lot of people like Carrie Lake, I don't dislike Carrie Lake, and I want people to realize this. I don't like or dislike a politician. I am ambivalent because they are pieces on the chessboard to me. When you get into the general election, I don't give a rat's backside about your anything. You are a piece on the chessboard to me. I'm a voter. That's how all voters should be looking at these politicians, by the way. People get too invested. They're not idols. They are useful tools for you to advance your agenda. And they are nothing more than that. No offense, that's the reality of stuff. They know the game when they sign up. So like I said, I don't dislike Carrie Lake. I do think that she looks bad in the abortion fight in Arizona because it highlights the fact that she's a brand new Republican. And she is. She's literally a recent Republican. Like 2016 was the first time she ever, was Republican. And I don't have a problem with convincing people to come over to the side of limited government and constitutionality. I'm totally fine with that. Is that not the whole point of what we do? To persuade people to come over to our side, right? To persuade people to come to your cause. I'm watching the show right now called Shogun. It's fantastic, by the way. Parts of it. Some parts drag on a little bit, and sometimes the Blackthorn British dude is a little overwrought. But other than that, it's a very interesting story. And the head warlord, who might be creating another shogunate, he's very smart in that he realizes when he gets a new ally, and he's all fine with having a new ally. Like this guy that they call, the Anjin. He's this British guy who's, he's there in Japan, and they're getting ready to break out into open warfare. It's the Edo period. And this warlord, he's very, very smart in that he knows when he has a new ally. This Anjin is a new ally to him. He gets it. But he doesn't immediately make him his second in command. He doesn't immediately make him in charge of everything. He doesn't immediately make him a thought leader within his clan. There's gradients of this. He's an ally, but you're not going to put him in charge of a whole bunch of stuff yet. And this is where I get really frustrated with the conservative movement, because you have Republicans and you have conservatives, and conservatives are so damn desperate. Not all, but the ones that are a little bit more Republican than they are conservative are so damn desperate for popular relevancy. And they are so damn desperate to look cool and to look relevant and to look as though they are competitive, that they will excitedly lap up any praise, and they will embrace any new person that comes along that might make them look a little bit more with it. And they will crown them the next thought leader without a moment's hesitation. How many times have you seen this? This is where they hurt themselves. Because this isn't about not welcoming people to your side. It's about putting people in charge of it right when they come in the door. Having them be a thought leader. Having them lay down the rules and put the items put into motion what you're going to advance in the next election and how you're going to message it. That's pretty significant. Especially if you're somebody who's brand new in the movement and you haven't been tempered by at least a couple of elections. You haven't had to really defend your ideals for quite a long time. You haven't been in the trench with everybody. My rule is that if you're too good to serve, then you're not good enough to lead. And this is kind of my problem with a lot of the stuff that I see, particularly on the right. The left doesn't do this, because they're psycho. They will circle the wagons. That's why they don't have a bench either. But the right is a little too thirsty. And I think some of that does come into play with Carrie Lake, because she's running away from pro-life right now. And pro-life groups are livid with her. And other Republicans in Arizona are mad at her. And now you got the Republican Party in a just massive brawl right now in Arizona. So case in point, this headline: Arizona Republican leaders block effort to repeal abortion ban, screaming shame, shame. Oh, they're fighting. They're very, very, and I get it. They're worried about how this is going to play into the election. But they're also worried about, you can't compromise on certain principles. I think there's a way to message this without having to run away from your position on stuff. So Lake had disavowed the ruling. She had come out against it. And she said, I oppose the ruling. I'm calling on the Democrat Governor Katie Hobbs and the state legislature to come up with an immediate common sense solution that Arizonans can support. Well, that phrase right there immediately got me as a gun owner. Common sense. Common sense. Why are we using phrasings like that? But in 2022, she was asked about this ban, and she said that the ruling upholds is a great law and that it sets an example for other states. What? So she flip-flopped on it. She had that position until the heat got hot. This is what I'm talking about. You got to be tempered by several elections. You got to be tempered for a little bit before you start shooting for the top. Now, I think her remarks and her posturing is way more problematic than Trump's is. Because now Lake looks like a moderate, and she is. I'm not saying that as an insult. She's a moderate. Trump is also a moderate. But he can govern conservatively. There's a difference. I think that Trump is trying to triangulate, and I don't think that that's a bad strategy to have. He's got to be very careful here. Because he needs his base. And he also needs the people who are not being told the whole picture about Arizona, and they might be believing some of the stuff that they're seeing with Democrats. Like I said, Biden's launching a 7-figure ad buy. They want to make this is what Democrats want to do. They want to make this all about abortion. All about abortion.